Yo, what's up, everybody? As I'm sure you've seen on social media, and I spoke about it in my previous video, NetherRealm Studios, the creators of Mortal Kombat and Injustice, are creating a Marvel fighting game. Yes, you heard that correctly. Now, if you haven't heard about these rumors yet, be sure to check out my previous video where I talk about the rumors as well as the reasons why I believe that they're true. I think this is super exciting, and NRS have such a wide roster of Marvel characters to choose from. I just feel that they're going to do a great job no matter who they pick. But for this video, I'm going to be speaking about my personal wish list and who I would like to see in the game. So let's get into this, and I hope you guys enjoy. If you do, don't forget to smash the like button and sub to the channel for all future gaming, reacts, and lifestyle content. Let's get into this. Okay, so off the bat, I'm going to be starting off with the traditional Marvel or the MCU characters, and then from there I'll be moving on to the X-Men characters. I say that like X-Men aren't traditionally Marvel characters, but people who are new to Marvel just from the start of the MCU don't really see the X-Men as a part of the Marvel universe. So we'll just keep them separate just for this video, and we'll go from there. Okay, so first character on the list has to be the one, the only first Avenger, Captain America. Captain America has been really cool in all the Marvel games, and I feel like him being a staple in Marvel comics as well as the MCU makes him a great pick and a great sell for this game. Things like his shield throw, shoulder bash, and his trick shield loops are some of the coolest things I could have ever thought to see Captain America do. Like, some of the stuff I've seen from Captain America players is crazy. Okay, next up we're going to be taking a look at the one, the only Iron Man. Just like Captain America, him being a staple in the MCU, I think gives him a guaranteed spot on this roster. In previous games, he's been amazing, but this is the first character, and it's early on the list, that makes me think, how will he play compared to previous games? All right, we know he has his Unibeam, which is a great special ability and a great assist. But Iron Man relies a lot on his air combos, his flight cancel combos, and just his flight. Is NRS going to be making a Marvel copy of Injustice 3, or are they going to try and make a Marvel game? If they do, I think having Iron Man with his flight cancel combos, and his Unibeam would be amazing. I would like to see what else they could do for the character, but I think that those three are a big staple of his. Moving on, we're going to be taking a look at Spider-Man or Miles Morales. Okay, Miles Morales is a big thing in pop culture right now. He's tied in with hip-hop, he's tied in with sneaker brands, he's tied in with pop artists. With the movie Into the Spider-Verse, as well as the Miles Morales Spider-Man game, I feel like if Peter Parker Spider-Man had to take a bench for this Marvel game, and NRS had to rather bring in Miles Morales, a more freestyle kind of Spider-Man, I think that would be a really cool change, and I think that could make him a really interesting character. He could still keep Spider-Man's fast mobility with full-screen air dashes, his fast wave dashes, and his normal web swing and web ball, but they could give him new, cooler animated abilities like Spider-Man's command grab, his air glide, and they could just overall design him to be different and a fresh take on the character. Next up, I have Hulk, Red Hulk, or She-Hulk. Okay, I think any of these versions of the Hulk would be really cool. Red Hulk isn't really Hulk, but it would still be cool to see a different version of the character. They could be a grappler. All right, they could have a cool shoulder charge, as we know Hulk has. They could have Hulk's normal ground toss, where they pick up the ground and throw it at the opponent. If it is She-Hulk instead of the other two, she can get her running cancels. If it's Red Hulk, we could see something completely different, and they could take something from the character, like he can do extra damage for a certain amount of period, but if he doesn't cool himself off before that period runs out, or if he's heat is too much, because I'm not sure if you guys know about Red Hulk, but the hotter he gets, the stronger he gets. So he can start doing more damage and his body can overheat and he can stun himself. Or if he manages it properly, it will just switch off and go back to his normal form. Moving on, we got the God of Thunder, Thor. Now, Thor's a really cool character that I never really experimented much with in Marvel vs. Capcom. I played him a little bit in MVCI when I was practicing, trying to find a good duo for me to play. But in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, I didn't really play him much, and I don't really know his capabilities, to be honest. I think his Mighty Spark and his hammer, like the hammer toss extension, is really, really cool. He's got that weird ground pound move where he like jumps in the air and then slams the ground. He's got his Rising Lightning like DP thing, I think it is. I can't really remember if it was a DP. So I think NRS could really take this character and explore him a bit more, but give him a little bit cooler moveset than the one we've seen with him have in the past. Okay, next we have a new character to the lineup, and that is Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch is super, super popular in the Marvel fandom, if I could call it that. And I feel that with all the hype around her right now, with Endgame, with WandaVision, with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness coming out, I feel like she would be a great addition to this game, and loads of people would love her. She could do things like have magic projectiles, teleport. She could throw curses on people, similar to Enchantress in Injustice 2, that like either debuff them or give her certain buffs. And she could use psychokinetic powers as well. There's a lot they could do with her, and I think, again, NRS could design such an awesome character. Going up next, we have to take a look at one of my favorite Marvel characters, the Sorcerer Supreme, Doctor Strange. Now, Doctor Strange is pretty cool in Marvel vs. Capcom, but I feel like they could give him a bit more magic. He places orbs on the field. He shoots you with some green things, and he has some projectiles that he can, some beams that he can shoot. But I feel like they could do a lot more. He is the Sorcerer Supreme. They could give him the Time Stone, maybe just to, I know it kind of makes him OP, but just to give him a little bit of an edge. Imagine Doctor Strange with one ability that costed maybe one level, a normal special ability that costed one level, and it winded time like 5 seconds. Not the entire game, just his character. So I'm not too sure how many of you have played Mortal Kombat 11, but Garrus is a perfect example of this special ability that costs bar, and he can rewind time, gain his health back. Doctor Strange would be incredibly unique and incredibly cool with that ability. Next up, we have a new addition to the Marvel fighting game roster, and that has to be the people's most hated, most loved Star-Lord. The man who messed it up but still manages to win everybody's hearts. Star-Lord would be a little bit of a bread and butter character, nothing really unique to him. I think what they could make him the most unique is maybe his voice lines and like his gear that he uses. They could give him cool rocket boots to help him fly around the map. Like I said with Iron Man, if NRS is going the Marvel route, I think this would give Star-Lord an extra reason to be picked. Not only is he cool on the ground with like weapons and gadgets and traps and bombs, but now he can also use his boots to get in the sky, do air combos, maybe get assists off of combos. I don't know, just make him interesting, not just a standard sit on the ground and pew, pew, pew. You understand what I'm saying? Next up, we have to look at the King of Wakanda, Black Panther. Now, Black Panther is probably one of the characters that I actually don't really know why he's not in Marvel vs. Cap or Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. He's such a cool character, such a cool concept, and although he's pretty much just a martial artist in a cat suit, don't hate me, Black Panther fans, they really designed him well in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. His wreckers, his wall cling, and his wall jump, as well as his cancel combos, are all really cool. And I think he is definitely one of the more fun characters to play in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, at least. Bringing him back in a Marvel fighting game made by NetherRealm Studio could be really cool. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite wasn't really played much, so I don't think we got to see the full extent that the character could really be used or designed to, if that makes sense. All right, next up we have somebody that I kind of struggled to think of a way to fit on this roster, but he is one of the most famous MCU characters, or at least Marvel characters, and that has to be Deadpool. Now, Deadpool's just a guy with guns. I'm not too sure how they could make him more unique in this game than he already has been in previous Marvel vs. Capcom games, but one way they could do it is they could give him an extra life. Now, again, I'm not too sure how many of you have played Mortal Kombat, but if you look at Terminator and if you look at Jason from Mortal Kombat 11 and Mortal Kombat X, they both have abilities where once they die, they come back to life with a little bit of life, not full life again, but they come back to life with maybe a quarter life, and they're able to have a little bit of fight in them. Maybe Deadpool could have this with his regenerative state. He dies, but then he can regenerate a little bit of his life. Like, he gets knocked out, you have to switch him out. And then by the time your last character dies, Deadpool jumps back in with his extra life or something. That could be pretty cool. And again, like Star-Lord, just an extra gimmick to make him a bit more interesting than a guy standing on the floor shooting guns. And finally, this was a hard choice for me. He's not really an MCU character yet, okay? He has been announced for Phase 4, but my last spot has to go to Moon Knight, Marvel's Batman. All right, this character is designed so awesomely. His backstory is pretty cool, and although they did take away some of his powers, I think that as Marvel's Batman, he's still a really awesome idea. I've always wondered if Marvel had a Batman sort of character. I always gave the mantle to Iron Man, but it's definitely Moon Knight. 100% Moon Knight. All right, he has crescent blade projectiles that he could use to zone out or counter zone the opponents. He has a wide range of weapons, mostly bowlers, Kali sticks, bow staffs, and a grappling hook. I think they could make him really cool. Something like a combination of Robin and Batgirl from Injustice 2 and Injustice 1. He could be using weapons, staffs, doing cool flipping combos, and then be using his grappling hook like Batwoman coming from the sky to wrap you and extend his combos. It would be pretty awesome. And hopefully when his series in Phase 4 of the MCU comes out, we will be able to see more of him. I think that he's a cool character, and I think that he should get a spot on this roster. There are other characters that could definitely make it in before him, but with his feature in the MCU, I definitely think he could squeeze his way in there. All right, so moving on, I'm going to now be talking about the typical Marvel bad guys, or the MCU bad guys. All right, off the bat, I'm going to be speaking about Thor's sister, Hela. Okay, this is an awesome character, and just like NRS designed Enchantress, I think they could make Hela be hella awesome. Okay, Hela's powers include weapon manifestation, necromancy, and she's immortal, just to name a few. Okay, the immortality doesn't matter because it's a fighting game and everybody has to die. But let's talk about the first two, weapon manifestation and necromancy. I think this could be really cool. And as I said about Enchantress, she could use her necromancy to summon a creature that fights with her. She could use her weapon manifestation to create her own weapons like we saw in Thor, where she creates axes, spears, swords, anything she needs. She could also use this to create spikes coming out the ground. She could use that to kind of do like knockdown setups. She could knock you down, end a combo, and then use a spike out the ground to come up and hit you from the bottom if you're not blocking on wake up. So there's a lot of things that they could do, and I think that they could design a really awesome character. Next up, we have the Master of Mischief, also a Thor villain, but I think he deserves his time in a Marvel fighting game, and that is Loki. Okay, he is the Master of Mischief, so they could make him really cool. He could clone himself, similar to how Zatanna did in Injustice 1, or maybe not as intense as that. Maybe just create one clone as himself, kind of like how Morgana does in MVC. He could also have teleportation and maybe a special ability that, like I spoke about with Doctor Strange, it could cost one level of bar and he could go invisible. Invisibility is an awesome thing that tricksters can do, and now you're getting hit by an invisible guy. I mean, it would be OP, but that's kind of what we need, and that's what would make Loki stand out from everybody else. Yes, he can clone himself, but now if he wants, he can spend one level of bar to go invisible. It's crazy. It would be a bit broken, but I think it would be cool. And for my final Marvel or traditional Marvel character, I would love to see a Spider-Man villain. I'm not sure how they would design them or who they would choose, but Mysterio, Doc Ock, or Green Goblin would be amazing choices. Moving on, I want to talk about the X-Men people. We've completed pretty much half the roster, and if this roster had to make it, or if anything similar to this roster had to make it into the Marvel fighting game, I would be so excited. So first off the bat, obviously, you know, I had to put your boy Wolverine. Again, Wolverine is kind of a subject similar to Iron Man with the flights. A lot of Marvel characters actually are, but Wolverine I would say the most because he's super fast. He can run, he can dash like crazy. He jumps off walls. He has special abilities where he's like slicing and running and slicing and moving. So I don't know if NRS are going to keep him to the traditional Marvel standards or if they're going to try and design him to be an NRS kind of character. If they do keep him to be the Marvel kind of standards, or if they redesign him, I won't be too bothered. But I know there'll be loads of Marvel fighting game fans that will hate the character. His running and his dashing has to say. Some of the most important things in Marvel fighting games are movement. So fast running and fast dashing has to stay. And then cool things like his Berserker Slash, his Tornado Claw, which is his DP if I'm correct, and his Fatal Claw loops should still be a thing. I mean, DP into Fatal Claw loops are 1000% a skill, and if you could do that, you should definitely be able to do that. Moving on from Wolverine, we have Storm. And I know I said people wouldn't be happy with a Wolverine rework, but I would love a Storm rework because I know she's popular, and don't hate me, Storm fans, but boy, do I not like Storm in Marvel vs. Capcom. She's not terrible, but I just think that they could make her a lot better. Not everything about her is bad. I'm not saying she's a terrible character. Her flight is pretty cool. She has that move with where she pushes you back with like the 3 tornadoes. I like her supers where she shocks the living shit out of you and then she sends that hailstorm. And finally, it would be pretty cool to see her have some ice-based moves. How she has the Hailstorm super, it would be cool to see maybe if she had a Hailstorm ability, maybe like an ice ball or like an ice hail. One of them hits you and it like roots their character to the floor for a second or something like that. That would be pretty cool. Let's move on to Cyclops. Cyclops is a pretty well-designed character, and I think that he is already pretty cool how he is. His Cyclone Kick gives me a little bit of Street Fighter vibes, but it's a part of his move, and maybe they could change how it looks not to be so Street Fighter, but I think it's still something that they would want to keep in his arsenal. It would be a pretty cool move to keep in his arsenal. That little eye beam that he shoots and the big eye laser that he shoots is awesome. And he has a DP. So there's not much more that you need from a character. He's got projectiles to keep people away. He's got a multi-hitting special ability, and he's got a DP. He's got great assists, and he's got great special abilities. So all around, Cyclops is an awesome X-Men character, and I think having him in the game would make fans happy and make the game super fun. All right, next up, we're going all the way back to the big tin can Colossus. Colossus is one of the characters I would have loved to see in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, just because of the technology upgrade from Marvel vs. Capcom 2. We could see a really cool character, and things like his shoulder charge. They could give him more variations of his giant swing. Maybe he could be a little bit of a command grab character with an anti-air version of a grab that leads to combos, a low version of a grab, and a low version of the normal giant swing where he swings around, throws them full screen, and then the regular giant swing that swings around and throws you full screen. And then maybe like Zangief, he can give himself some armored normals. I mean, he is a tin can. He is literally the Metal Man. So maybe he can have one or two, or maybe just, literally one heavy attack that he has armor on, and it has to take 3 hits to break the armor or something. I don't know. I think that would be really cool, and it would make him unique. Next up, we got Beast. Okay, Beast is such an awesome character, and when I was a kid, he was actually one of my favorite X-Men. Him and Gambit, but not so much anymore. All right, as we know, Beast is literally a beast. All right, he has extra dexterity. He can jump around. He can swing around. He can grab things with his feet. They could really, really design an awesome character here. Kind of similar to Gorilla Grodd from Injustice 2, but a lot more nimble, jumping off the walls, maybe doing air, like limited, because he can't fly, but doing limited air combos where he can jump to the sky, do like 4 hits, and then he has to fall down. Something like that. I don't know. It could be really cool. He could also have, like Colossus, some command grabs. I don't know what he could do. Maybe because he's a beast, he could like jump on you and start like biting you, similar to how Melina did in MKX. I know I'm making a lot of references to NRS games, but that's mostly what I play, so it's easy for me. I think that would make him really cool. He could have air grabs. He could have ground grabs. If he does an air combo and he finishes in an air grab, he takes you all the way to the ground and then he starts like pounding on you. And I think they could design a really awesome upgrade to Gorilla Grodd. Next up, we're going back to the original Iceman, and also a character I would have loved to see in MVCI if Marvel was involved, because with the technological advancements, they could really design a cool original X-Men character. He could have his regular ice beam, which would freeze on hit, similar to Cyber Sub-Zero from MKX. I think that kind of animation would be really, really cool. He's got that weird move where he summons like a ice boulder from the sky, and he turns his hand into like an ice boulder. I think they could do a lot more cooler stuff with that, and this is a reason why it would have been cool to see him in MVCI. Like, they could have designed him to change his hand. Instead of to a weird ice ball, he could change it to an axe or to a hammer or to a sledgehammer or to literally anything. It could literally change while he's doing a combo. It could start off as a sword for the first hit, then he hits you with the fist, then it changes into a hammer and he slams you into the ground. Like, they could do really cool stuff with this character. And then instead of that weird rock that falls from the sky, they could copy something similar to Colin's ice from Street Fighter, where she throws the ice in the sky, takes a second, and then it falls. They could do something similar to that, make it look a bit cooler, not really a carbon copy of hers. But I think the idea of a special like that would be really cool. And then a counter-attack ice shield. All right, this would be really cool. And again, it would be something that makes Iceman unique to everybody else in the roster. He could turn his entire body to ice, and if you hit him, you freeze, and he does a counter attack that sends you full screen. I think that would be amazing, and it would literally turn Iceman into a complete character. He won't just feel like a generic dude that's made out of ice freezing people, you know? Like, it would be like, okay, cool, he's freezing people, he's got ice setups, and he also has an ice parry that sends you full screen so he can continue to shoot you with his ice beam and do his ice setups. So make him a little bit different and create him to be a bit cool. Next up, we're on to my fave X-Men character of all time, Gambit. All right. Gambit has always been amazingly designed. All right. For those of you who don't know who Gambit is, his power is he can imbue items with kind of an explosive power or an explosive like energy, and then he can explode it. Later on, when his power started to develop, he actually didn't have to touch the items, and just by seeing them and concentrating hard enough, he could explode them. But his thing is he touches throwing cards, he makes them explosive, and he throws them at people. We could see his normal throwing card, special ability, his anti-air throwing card, his air throwing card, and his wall jumps. I think normally Gambit is a well-designed character. He's not really something that I think would be different from an NRS character, and I don't see them having to really change him at all. They could maybe give him like a cool pole special ability. He could, while in a combo, you could do a pole special ability where he leaps on the pole, does like a flip and like lands on your head and then like flips you over or kicks you, or I don't know what, but something like that, just to give him a new ability, make him feel a bit more unique. All right, going up next is Phoenix. And Phoenix is also one of those traditional MVC characters that I don't think you could change. And if you did change, it would get a lot of hate from fans. If she did have to make this roster, which I doubt she wouldn't, I'd like to see her flight return. It's pretty cool. Same thing as I said with Iron Man and all the guys before this. If NRS are trying to create a Marvel game, it would be cool to see her fly. If they're trying to create an NRS version of a Marvel game, I don't think she'll have her flight anymore. But I still think they could create a cool character. She could have her overdrive DP, those weird triangle fire traps that she sets, and then maybe like a fire beam that she could use both on the ground and in the air. I know that before, when she was in the air, she could shoot those weird fire orbs, but it would be cool to see them change it to a beam. And finally, Dark Phoenix. You cannot have Phoenix in a game and not give her Dark Phoenix. Like the normal one, once she gets down to a low enough percentage, she'll transform from Phoenix into Dark Phoenix, have her extra damage, have her less life, do all the funky Dark Phoenix things that we used to. Coming up next, also a character I would have loved to see in MVCI. And I just think that I keep saying this because it would have been awesome to see the original Marvel vs. Capcom characters in a newer Marvel game. And that is Psylocke. Psylocke is such an awesome character. I think that she is not really hyped up enough. She's kind of underhyped to me in the modern day Marvel universe. She's not in enough. Okay, well, X-Men wasn't really involved in Marvel, so I can't really say that. But how I could see her working is they could change the teleport to work a bit more like Zatanna's instead of her old one, where her old one, she would teleport in a place and then blink to that place. I think they could change it to be like Zatanna's, where she could make 4 versions of herself, move freely, and then swap to one of those versions of herself. So not necessarily keeping the 4 of them out, but like 4 of them pop out and then she moves and turns to one and does something. That would be really cool. I'm not sure if how I explained that makes sense, but that would be really cool. She could have her normal butterfly projectile, and instead of a weird normal regular DP, I feel like they could change her DP to use her telekinetic weapons, her psionic weapons. I think that that's something that they only really use in her normals, and they should use a lot more specials and supers with it. Could be really cool, and they could make her look really cool. Moving on, a new character to the Marvel fighting game roster. I would love to see Mr. Fantastic. All right, Mr. Fantastic is really, really awesome character. Reed Richards, super smart. And I feel like they could design him similar to Dualism from Street Fighter V or just Street Fighter in general. I could have butchered his name, and if I do, I apologize. But Dualism is an awesomely designed character, and besides for the weird floating, I think they could design Mr. Fantastic pretty much similar to this. He could have full screen attacks where he punches you from full screen, and then like he can have grabs where he grabs you from full screen and like pulls you towards him to continue his pressure, or does like a command grab and slams you to the floor. I don't know, but I feel NRS could design a really cool character, and they could make him unique by giving him air combos where instead of flying or jumping, his legs just stretch and he goes up. And you literally see his legs at the bottom of the screen, and he just starts fighting in the air, doing an air combo instead of actually having to fly. You would still have to juggle the combo like a flight combo, but it would just be a different animation, and I think that would be really awesome. Next up, the one, the only. I think people have wanted him in MVC for a long time, and that is Nightcrawler. All right, Nightcrawler, he doesn't really have much that he can do, but again, an awesome character that NetherRealm Studios could design. He could have full screen teleports where he can teleport anywhere on the screen, in the sky. He can teleport in the air to do an air combo or an air assist. He can teleport on the ground. He's super fast jumping on the walls. All of a sudden, he's behind you. He could have command grabs with his tail where he jumps and grabs with his tail and flings you. Like, they could do really cool things with him. And I'd just like to see how they work with his teleport, as that is his main power and his main like trait, if I can say it that. Moving next, another difficult character that I think they could work on is Mystique. Okay, Mystique would be a new addition to the MVC or just the Marvel roster, but she would be amazing. They could make her a shapeshifter because that is her main power, and she could shapeshift into the person that she's fighting. Similar to how Shang Tsung can steal your soul in Mortal Kombat and turn into you. She obviously wouldn't have to steal your soul, but maybe she can have a special ability that costs 1 bar, and then she turns into the character that she's fighting. She gets all their normals, she gets all their specials, she gets all their supers. People who can play a lot of characters could use her. They could fight in her own style, and if people get used to that, they could change to the mirror match. Now, are you used to fighting your own character? Getting to the end of the list here, I added yet another grappler to the X-Men list, and that is Big Boy Juggernaut. All right, Juggernaut is also a pretty simple character, but NRS could make him really, really cool with the animations they give him. He could be a grappler, like I just said, with a low or a high command grab. He could have a cool shoulder charge, and he could have a body slam pretty similar to that of, I think the character in Street Fighter's name is Birdie. It could be a bit different, and Juggernaut could like jump in the sky and like frog splash you, you know? Again, another just generic character, but a cool character that some people might rather use instead of Beast. So, moving on next, the last 2 characters are fan favorites, Dr. Doom and Magneto, respectively. Dr. Doom, Okay, I feel it would be really cool. They could give him his flight, his awesome movement. How Doctor Doom moves around the map is crazy insane. They could give him his amazing dive kick. They could give him his beam projectiles as well as that like weird pew 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 projectile. And then a new thing that I think would make him unique to this game, or at least a little bit different from previous games. I know it wouldn't work the same, but Doom, if you guys don't know, has his own Doom bots. All right. And how Ultron uses his robots in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, I think would be awesome for Doom to use the Doom bots in this game just to make him a bit more different. He could summon at maybe not all three at once like Ultron, but he could summon a Doom bot to either do a dive kick or a low sweep or like a electric punch or something, you know, just to add to his toolkit and make him a bit cooler. And finally, Magneto. Magneto, also one of the legacy characters. They could give him his flight, they could give him his ground beam and his air projectile, as well as his force field. I think these are two characters that you can't really change, and keeping them this way would make fans, old fans, happy and would still keep new fans interested in them. But that's my Marvel roster wish list. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. It's a pretty long one from me, and let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Do you like these characters? Who would you rather swap for one of your own characters? And let's have some conversation down in the comments. If you did enjoy this video, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to smash the like button and sub to the channel for all future gaming, reacts, and lifestyle content. But that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed. Stay safe. Peace.